It's like that, but in the interest of keeping a kind of a wee conversation, you're like, it's just kind of, I'll just go off of it. But yeah, of course, nothing rehearsed.
That's how we like it, mate.
Cool, good.
Great. Welcome to the Grails and Tales podcast, episode number 4. We are delighted today to be joined by Hector Barbour, also known as Denis Sulta, live on the podcast.
Hey guys, how are you doing? You right?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. I suppose, as we were just saying earlier, just trying to, survive through buying clothes and just trying to do as much as we can, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's a mad wee time to be alive. But you know what? It's if you look past all the hardship, it is a big opportunity for those visionaries amongst us. So it's a very interesting time to be alive. That's for sure.
Absolutely, mate. That's exactly the sort of attitude you've got to have to it now as well. There's no point kind of getting down the dumps with it all. It's kind of about, what position can you put yourself in when we get out of here, and just kind of trying to enjoy it as much as you can, really.
Absolutely.
We've always said, though, I've always said, like, I'd love in my life to have like 6 months where I have to, like, you can't go out, you've got to be like focus on stuff, and like you never do it, obviously. That's the winter. But it's kind of forced upon us this time.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's actually. I actually bumped that quote from my mum. My mum has got kind of the best kind of like head for like this kind of stuff, and so that is really kind of rung true. It is like that. As much as kind of it's affected everybody in a very kind of individual way, it has kind of resets you a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? Like everything kind of just feels like it's all on par now. Do you know what I mean? That because everybody's kind of had everybody's had some sort of like unique experience with this. As much as it does affect everybody, it affects everybody uniquely as well. So the thing is, especially in the music industry, which is obviously just like crumbled, you know what I mean? Like what happens next will be a real interesting wave. So I'm excited to see what happens for sure. And yes, I'm at that stage now where I'm so sick of complaining about it. I'm just like, I'm ready to get on with what's next.
I think I've got now to say, I think we all have like, all right, cool. We now can like smell the end almost coming. It's like, right, I'm out. I'm ready to go. Like, just open up the doors, and we're kind of ready to do what we've been waiting to do, basically, just to get out there.
Absolutely, aye.
Put all the hard work into actually fruition. Which
exactly.
Hopefully.
How have you found it then with everyone in the music industry? Have you been keeping in touch with them all, or?
So do you know what I mean? Like it's you see your colleagues in the world like on a weekly basis. You know what I mean? Like that when it was all going down, and then everyone kind of like that. You all kind of end up going your own separate ways. And of course, I still speak to the majority of them, but I just can't wait to go out and be amongst it all again. Do you like that? I mean, that's kind of, I think everybody's kind of been sitting back and either kind of just focusing on life for a bit, or focusing on the studio for a bit, or just not really doing much, because I didn't really get a chance to stop when I was touring beforehand. Like I really didn't, and I mean I always wanted that way. That way I couldn't. I loved it, right? Of course, but it's kind of mad because you get to that point when you're just like running on like peak levels. You know what I mean? At like massively peak levels, and then all of a sudden you just get this massive just like drop off of nothing. So like the first, I'd say, let's say 8 months or whatever, it was quite difficult to kind of get my head out of that world and to kind of get my head above ground again and that. But I've just been spending a little bit of time learning how to live again, which is amazing. And I've moved down to Liverpool, which has been a massive influence on me for a lot of reasons. And I'm actually here more or less living with the Matter of Fact guys, 2 other fantastic producers from down here. And we decided to build a studio from scratch because we were just like, well, we need a space to work in. And we've got loads of time, so why don't we just do it from the ground up? So we filled the ground with cement and we put the poles in, and we bought the wood and all that, and got it absolutely, got it rocking. So yeah, it's just out there. The signals in there is really terrible, so that's why I'm in here. So but so it's great actually. So I mean, do you know what? It's been really beneficial for a lot of reasons, and it really given me a lot of chance to look back on my life previous to this, and just pick it apart, filter what I want in it, filter what I don't want in it moving forward, and that, and just get really excited about what's kind of about music again, which is just the best. So I'm flying it now though. I'm feeling great just now. Voice is class. So yeah.
I bet you were like from like 2015, 2016, I bet it was just like non-stop, like probably just all one blur in terms of like the kind of lockdown there.
Yeah, do you know what, man? It was. I was looking back at a couple of videos actually though, and it's kind of crazy because when you it's just feels so surreal because you look back on it and you remember these moments and like that. Thank God the internet's there because like like you can just access like all those old memories dead quickly. And I mean, it's just I was watching this Parklife video again today and I was just like, fuck me, I missed that. James, that looks brilliant, man.
That was actually a really good time back then. Yeah, can't wait to do that again, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I have every faith that we'll be there, and it's exciting because of what it's going to do to like actual kind of like to smaller scenes as well. That's the thing, because as we come out of this, we'll have had people that are sitting in their bedrooms just absolutely honing their craft, or there'll be like kids that are just kind of like getting right into the DJing kind of like from home. And the other thing as well is it will change a lot of people's perspective of dance music as well, because a lot of the time you can make a tune in the studio and you can go at the weekend and you can go and get instantaneous feedback, right? Okay, and that means that it means that you can just go out and you can try stuff and you can test stuff in the clubs. But like now you don't have that option, so you're like, when do I stop? Is it too much? Like that, is this incline too big? Is it too small? Is it like that or like that? Whatever. Like I just like these things working anymore. So like it's gonna be interesting to see how people's isolation has warped their concept of what they think is like rock clubs, man. So I mean, so there's going to be a whole different bunch of people coming out, and yeah, I'm fucking excited to see what's going down.
100%, man. I mean, that's what's exciting about it. It's like, who's going to emerge out of this? Like, what's actually going to be like? What's going to be the new things? I mean, from your perspective, do you feel like you're going to be coming out lockdown like a different artist at all? We're going to see a new kind of Denis Sulta, or do you feel like you're kind of looking to get back to your old ways?
Well, I mean, maybe I better dress Sulta to do that. Maybe. Thanks to you guys. No. I reckon. It's given me a little bit of time to focus on other like sonic aesthetics. So I've been doing a lot of like producing with the Matter of Fact guys, with the band that we work with here. Like that. There's a guy called Mason Owens, who's an amazing guitarist, and there's Eva Dillon, who's super amazing singer, and Mr. Ragsy, who's got on the keys. We've been doing this Prima project, so we've been doing a lot of band stuff. I've been making a lot of drill beats like that. Do you know what I mean? I've been kind of like going back to my hip hop kind of my hip hop kind of techniques and stuff. So, and that's kind of I basically have a big thing that'll come in this year, which I'll leave it there. But like, do you know what I mean? So that's kind of managed to take the pressure off of what I'm actually supposed to be doing in the studio, because if you've got something that you want to try and like achieve, but it's like all like massive big Sulta stuff, then for me it puts a lot of pressure to like to really get like that sound done or to make bangers. And so because I have been working pretty much since I stopped touring like non-stop like that, the studio has been the main focus, and I've come out of it with a massive big bunch of I've got a huge big bunch of new work from it. So now it's just really great because I just get to do stuff that I really enjoy. That's the thing. And like, and that doesn't necessarily always mean dance music. So it's like, that's just a brilliant thing. So just getting a bit of a chance to be a bit more creative now, and just creative in a different way, I guess, which is really nice, and it really kind of resets kind of where your creative kind of direction was at that time. So it feels, it's good, it's nice.
You mentioned about like the hip hop passion that you had kind of like coming back into now. Was that just when you were growing up, just that was like the sound that really kind of resonated with you, or where did that kind of come from, that one from?
When I was at school, I was massively into hip hop when I was at school. Like that, like a couple of my mates when I was growing up, they were like that too. Specifically, are like mad hip hop heads, but like in a strange way, where like they know every single artist and every single song and every single album, and like in a really mad collectory kind of way. And so that's kind of when I first got an iPod as well. So like that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna fill this guy up with like all this. I had all the 90s, I had all the 90s stuff, all the Tribe stuff, and fucking all that sort of stuff. But then I kind of grew out of it quite quickly, and I got into like kind of the much bigger American sound. And then I was loving the Game. I used to love the Game. I still love the Game. I queued up for a Game concert in Glasgow for 10 hours, man. Like that, like, but when it was coming, we all bought red shirts, like red Old Navy shirts and all that, like standing outside in the line, like waiting to go in. It was absolutely fucking amazing, man. Big show that. So that's kind of what I was into when I was about between the ages of about 13 to about 15, 16 or something like that. I was really into the hip hop sound. And then that obviously built up, and then you get all the likes of Rick Ross, and then you got those big, massive, like heavy, big hip hop beats, which were just like, and like that was kind of had a massive effect on like what I was wearing at the time, and like kind of what I was kind of how I was and that. Because when I was skiing, it was all about baggy clothes and all about kind of hip hop stuff and that. And, you know, so I was definitely kind of much more of a hip hop head for a while, I guess. And then, but then that kind of, when I sort of became old enough to go to clubs, because I didn't really go to clubs before I was 18. So that's when I first started the 4-4 to the floor, and the rest was history.
Yeah, you pulled your trousers up and you thought, actually, this might be.
Yeah, that's the one, man. Yeah, pulled waist high with a belt on and a polo neck, and then I was fucking like, I mean that was like that was out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, obviously, we've both seen your sets as well, like live, and obviously, you know, watching them back and everything. I mean, you play such like an epic sort of variety of bits, which is amazing. Like the vibe is just always kind of on it. There's such a good tempo to it. I mean, in terms of the sort of music you listen to now, obviously, you listen to hip hop now. Like, do you just go with your mood and what you listen to, or is it like where do you kind of where do you get your inspiration from now at the moment?
Well, do you know what, man? I mean, like, well, thanks, man. I'm glad you like the shows, man, for sure. And like, I definitely liked. I was thinking about. Do you know what, I had a bit of a thought about that today, and I was like, Hector, he's like, you can't stop taking risks when you come back, Hector. You need to keep taking your risks. I was like, I had a bit of a word with myself today. But you know what? I was kind of always into music when I was a kid, but my father has 2 degrees in music, and he was a massive inspiration for me kind of growing up, because I was always getting a lot of other music in the house. You know, I was always getting, there was like, you know, there was Snoop Dogg in the house, but there was also like all Frank Sinatra and like all that sort of stuff. You know, it was a big, massive kind of like mix of stuff. And then because I did a bit of classical music when I was younger, I played the trumpet, and that kind of, I did quite well at that. Then I kind of just got this really great big kind of sound palette of stuff. So I never really liked like dance music just for the specific like you know like title as such. So I just kind of always loved the idea that that you could kind of that you could manipulate stuff and get stuff to fit in with each other. So I guess right now I'm just obviously just doing a bit of Spotify stuff, because realistically it's the best way to get hold of stuff. I mean we're making a lot of beats in the studio, but like I really get inspired by where I am in the world, because everywhere has a different sound, everywhere has a different kind of like interest. And so like, and here in Liverpool there's like the Scouse House, which is like obviously like that, like big bangers, which is quite similar to the Glasgow donk sound. Do you know what I mean? Because you get kind of the DJ Cammy and like that, all that sort of stuff up north is like huge, you know.
Like the Newcastle sound I think as well.
Yeah. It seems like that. The more northern you get, the faster it goes. Like that, yeah.
Yeah, sounds great.
So like, you know, there was definitely a bit of that when I came in, and you know, but the drill stuff is just because of all the kind of the UK based like rappers and artists that we have like kind of in England, which I wasn't really much like across on. But you know, it's really, I think it's really important to always just, you know, open your ears to your surroundings and see what people are wearing, like that kind of what they kind of inspired by, and like take a little bit of that on yourself, and then, you know, use it to kind of, you use it to add some color to whatever it is that you're painting, you know, at that time.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting to say that. I mean, I guess also one of the unique things about you as an artist is just like your energy. There's obviously lots of DJs out there who you kind of know that you go and see them a little bit for the music, or there's kind of a bit within their shell, whereas you're sort of like very much performing artist in that respect. Like there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of kind of, you know, sound, there's like different bits, there's almost a bit of humor sometimes in your sets, which is something which is so unique. Like where does that sort of drama come from, that sort of like dramatic kind of energy?
that drama, I love it, man. I love it. I don't know, do you know what, man? This is gonna sound a bit like mad, but like, you know, it just was just natural for a while. I just loved it. Like I just love it like that. Do you know what I mean? And I guess that it was all, I don't know. I quite loved. I love the performance side of things. When I started, it was so not about that. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, in like kind of playing records and like dingy like Glasgow after parties. Like you can't really see yourself doing anything that's kind of like, you know, this any kind of like performance stuff. It's much more head down like that. Do you know what I mean? I don't make a fuss kind of thing. And the more I got into it, the more I just realized that performing made me really, really like liberated like that. You know, my mind was really quiet when I was doing it. Like, you know, I was really focused and it just kind of felt natural. So over time, I kind of got to terms with the fact that I was able to like admit to myself that I really liked it. So, and then it just kind of comes from just excitement, and it comes from a bit of nerves and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But it's great fun, and it's part of the show. Like I like the, you know, this like the Denis Sulta thing is like, you know, it's kind of, I wanted to kind of always be exciting. You know, I wanted to be more than just like playing tunes and more than just playing like electronic tunes, and like, you know, I just kind of love the whole like concept of like being able to just be entertained. Like realistically, you know, I like just, you know, I love being an entertainer, and it's great, but it's multifaceted. That's the thing. You know, if you're just a DJ, you know, or a DJ by title, you know, totally that's fine. But I just quite like just I love all of the arts, you know, including the performing arts. You know what I mean? It's like all of those things are all part of the piece of work for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's like, you know, I remember at Lost and Found at like Annie Max at the Castle, and like the energy that you see someone playing to you, you're naturally just taken into it as well, and it kind of like engulfs you in a particular set, which I think some of the time can be lost when some people are playing for a, you know, longer period of time. You can kind of lose that. I mean, have you found that, you know, your kind of like music and like, you know, your performing changed a lot kind of as you were growing up? Because obviously there was like a 5-6 year period where you kind of went from like, you know, as you were saying, playing at house parties to then being like bang, kind of one of the leading DJs in the world for electronic music.
Oh, well, man, thanks. I mean, to be honest, it just like, I think, you know, starting out on the controller, which is what I was using, I kind of used it as, or at least I kind of use the analogy of learning to ride a bike like that, basically to trying to learn how to DJ. And like, or at least like in how you want to do it, because, you know, initially I kind of saw the bike and I saw people riding it, and I was like, I want to be able to do that. But the first time you get on a bike without stabilizers, you fall off because you're just like shit. And then you go, you know, you're disheartened because you're like, well, I can't do that yet, and I never will be able to do that, but I need a bit of help to get up there. So that's when you put the training wheels on, you know, and then you kind of get the hang of it with them on, and then after a while you feel quite comfortable with that, and then after that you kind of like, okay, you take them off, and then you start to get down to riding a bike, which you never forget. But the more confident that you get on the bike, then the more tricks that you can then learn on it. And that is essentially how I started. I went, well, I want to be able to DJ, but it looks really difficult and it's quite inaccessible, but I can see people doing it, so it must be possible. So, you know, I was like, right, well, find the easiest way to do it, to get into it so I can understand it, which was to get a controller. And so that was essentially my training wheels, because that kind of showed me how it worked. I could understand that when I hit sync, then it was kind of working the two beats together, and then it kind of showed me how to do things. And then once I got a board of that, because, you know, if that's kind of all I was doing, I was like, no, I want to be able to do it this way. That's when I kind of, you know, put that to one side and bought a pair of record decks, and then learned on the vinyls, because that was when I really sort of learned what it was like to mix with my ears. And so then, you know, that's kind of what it was, kind of like that, you know, after that, I could learn how to write. I knew how to ride a bike. I knew how to mix a record. And so then after that, all the other little things that came out, you know, like that was like, you know, like the Pioneers, and I used to play with Tractor, and like I kind of had tried all these other different fucking, you know, bikes or whatever, like blah blah, to use the analogy, but the thing is, the main thing is the DJing part, which is the technical aspect of it. That still remains. You like that. So everything around it, I just used to try and make it more exciting, and to make it more creative and more expressive. So, you know, that's when, you know, now kind of when I play, I use like 4 CDJs, the fucking whatever, well, the newest ones, the Nexuses, and just like, you know, well, I love that new Pioneer mixer as well, that big fucking 6-channel one. But, you know, the more options that you have to be creative or be technical or cool, then I just think that why wouldn't you want to use them? You know, because there's going to be so many different like courses that you're going to be going on. Some could be a festival, some could be a small dingy club, you know. And if you can't use like that, you can't use a fucking road bike on a mountain, can you? Do you know what I mean? So, but you can, you know, so the things that, so you got to learn how to ride a mountain bike. So the thing is that, you know, that's kind of when I was like, right, well, okay, I can adapt to all these sort of situations, because the show isn't about my technical skill. It's not about how cool I am. as like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like that, or like whatever. As much as some performers think it is that, it's about everyone in the room. And the thing is, you're there as a vehicle, and obviously as a performer, to create that energy, to create that good that atmosphere that's there. And so by taking it away from yourself, it kind of actually takes a lot of pressure off of you to be this like ridiculously like polished and kind of underground and kind of credible DJ, when realistically those things matter not in the dance. They just don't. So like and that's kind of how I've just my attitude to that has changed over the years. And I feel it's dead healthy, and it's exciting because you go in ready to have fun with what you can do. And so that's kind of how it's been for the last couple of years. Yeah.
It's so good to kind of hear you speak like that, and to just say it's something which you see about the energy in the room rather than something which you're personally doing, which is like such a good attitude to have as a performing artist. I was just thinking, like, to continue your lovely little bike analogy.
Go on.
Was there kind of like a set in your mind where you think like that's when the proverbial sort of stabilizers came off and you realized that you can ride a bike, and you're like, right, that's the set where you came off and you were like, the energy in that room tonight was just fucking buzzing, like, and you started to realize that you're learning your craft?
You know what, man? I remember, I think the first time that I felt really like proficient on records, and it was a club in Glasgow that's called Room 2 now, used to be called Chambre 69, and it was for an old radio station that I used to do a show on that was called Hector's House, right? It was a student radio station, and it was called Sub City, and they had like a big like end of the year kind of like pie or whatever, and they had this big chicken wire cage in the middle of the dance floor. And it was like, yeah, but I mean, it was like sick though, like that. Do you know what I mean? It was like, do you know what I mean? It looked so fucking cool. And I remember that being in my memory anyway, that like is like what's fucking left of it anyway. my memory that I have so far, it was one of the first times I felt really proficient on the records, and I think that for me at that point gave me a good bit of confidence to be like, okay, I think who am I trying to prove this to now? What, like that, during that, am I trying to prove this to myself, or am I trying to prove this to anybody else? I mean, there must be more to it than just this. So I think that maybe kind of might have been the moment when I was like, right, I think I can do this. Actually, I think this might be what I want to do. And just like, I guess after that, it wasn't really until I mean, there's been loads of shows that, to be honest, that have done that for me, that have taught me whole new things. But going to Australia really taught me a whole bunch of like that. Like going on tour was one of the biggest things ever, because that's when I totally got to see the cliche from my own eyes that music is the universal language, because that is just absolutely amazing. Wherever you go in the world, people know how to dance. Do you know what I mean? So I guess that comes close to answering that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like a lot of fun. And then did you, so I suppose of you, the way you've kind of gone on and built that confidence, was Sulta Selects then like always a natural progression, or was that kind of actually like, I want to create something that I can, work with other artists and so on?
Do you know what? Sulta Selects just actually came because I was making music and I was trying so hard to get people to listen to it. And I was like surrounded by Dixon Avenue, and obviously who were the first OG supporters of the Sulta. So big up Dixon Avenue, big up Dan Morlocks, big up fucking Kenny Grieve. Good lad, good boys. So basically, but after that, I was kind of like, I don't really want to go anywhere else other than Dixon Avenue, but I kind of want to still have somewhere that's not Dixon Avenue. And then I just went, well, maybe I can have my own thing, because then that means I can run my own parties. So then I was like, right, well, what am I going to call it? And then I just, Sulta Selects just seemed to be like a good name and all sort of stuff. And then I just decided, okay, well, that's an umbrella for me to to just, I guess, well, I don't know if it's like that, that's kind of a brand that I can then use to, that I can then kind of do my own music stuff on. And I wanted to really do those 3 records that I did on Sulta Selects initially, because I wanted to really kind of like cement what the sound was, like what I was doing and how my kind of head sounded like that. So that was kind of the plan anyway. But yeah, it's come a long way though.
I remember hearing some Dan Shape track, and he was Birch Groove like 2 years ago at Lost Village, the one that we heard, couldn't
went
find an
well.
ID for it, and then like he popped up like 6 or 8 days, like, yeah, that's gone out and Sulta Select. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Go on then.
fair play, that is a tune. I mean, is
It's
that
an absolute tune.
do you just then? I mean, is it that part like you're trying to create a sound of like what fits into the label, or how does that kind of part of it work?
To be honest, so the Silver Service is like is basically for the other artists that I'm really quite fond of, and like that goes down to like just personal relationships and simply just like that a sound that I quite kind of like. It just kind of I don't really know how else to kind of put it than that, because it's kind of a lot of people that see that people have kind of like I've either kind of like come across in my life, or people like I know just a kind of a place, just a sort of a place for the underground sort of sound, sort of the half made at home, like that, the sort of the youthful kind of like hope and kind of naivety, which is beautiful. Like that's the one thing, and that like in kind of like in like kind of early production of dance music and kind of anyone's career, or anyone's kind of like creative development, so it's some of the most beautiful stuff, because you create without any real boundaries, and like and everything's not exactly like perfectly technically clean. You get really you get stuff that's kind of really well produced, or kind of like very kind of safely produced, you know what I mean? So like that, then you can't relish in the mistakes, because some of the mistakes, or some of the kind of the decisions that you would make unaware, if the bass is too loud or whatever like that, or kind of like just missing the top ends or whatever, like that stuff really doesn't matter. I think it's kind of like a unique signature of a lot of people, and like that's kind of how you then develop your own sound. Because if you are doing everything by the book from the start, then you kind of have to break your own rules at the beginning, like that later on. You have to learn how to relearn how to kind of to ignore some of the like things that you think are tried and tested to be like the way people make dance music. So I guess like for like this kind of the slightly like grungier sound, and the kind of the slightly more dance floor heavy records and the sort of that sort of stuff, Silver Service is for that. Sulta Selects is a big thing for, I reckon, specifically just for Denis Sulta's kind of big stories, which there will be some very soon. and but the thing is, the Sulta Selects, Silver Service is more for kind of the up and coming next big dance bangers and all that sort of stuff. So it's a great way to kind of to split the material.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting to hear you say about well, like at the start it's easy to create without boundaries. I think we've even found that with running our business. Like when we first started it was just like get the clothes out, whatever. Now it feels like we've got to keep like staying, like every photo's got to be perfect, and you can overthink it a bit. How do you kind of like stay true to kind of what you want to be as an artist? Do you like, especially when you're touring, it must be crazy going from show to show. Like how much time do you actually get where you sit down and think like, am I happy with this? Like is this how I see myself? Like do you think particularly long term, or do you kind of go year by year? Or
to be honest, for me, it's like I make a lot of music on hotel floors on a laptop. So like I sit with the Sennheiser HC25s, because they sound like they're like the best headphones in my from what I love anyway, and it's what you hear a lot of like dance music through, because the majority of DJs use them. So I kind of like, when you're on the road, I never really had a place to sit down and call a studio. And also the other thing as well is I just didn't really have the time or the want at that moment. Do you know what I mean? Because I could just do stuff on the laptop, and I basically learned how to use my laptop like an instrument. Like, so many people like can play the guitar and play the keyboard and stuff. And I then just got so friendly with my Mac that I just got like into a point where like things are just intuitive now. So like when the way that I use Ableton and the way that I use the keyboard on the Mac and stuff like that, it may seem like I'm just tapping away, but it really feels to me like I know that thing inside out. Do you know what I mean? So I can make quite quick decisions, and I know how to do it like quite quickly. So when I was on the road, I'd always have something around me that was inspiring me. So like, and it's quite quick. It's quite good to kind of have that with me. And I usually just do like a lot of stuff based on where I was and at the time that it came into my head, And so that was kind of just that was kind of the way that I kind of was releasing making a lot of music when I was on tour. And it's kind of my best be place, to be honest. I mean, like we do have this great studio downstairs, but there's nothing beats the sanctuary of the floor. You know, I really think the floor is one of the kind of the safest places to be sometimes. You know, like that. You can't, you know, like, so I'll always like go down on my knees and go like this and put my as just like up here. I mean, it's terrible for my back and terrible for my knees. I'm telling you that, Jesus Christ, and bad for my eyes as well because I'm like this the whole time. So, but it's you know, over time, I really got to learn how to get that thing to sing. Like really, you know, like a lot of the melodies I use are all played from my Macintosh keyboard. So like, you know, it's all just, you know, it became like a really good kind of way of working. So, but now it's now we're kind of sitting down and we're doing stuff, but we're just, I think I'm more inspired subconsciously and developed subconsciously through decisions that I make to go and see what else is around me creatively. So like, you know, the things that I would, you know, like the sort of the sonic aesthetics or the hip hop stuff that I was doing before, and the little tricks that I use in Ableton, like all the mad like reverse and rewind tools and stuff like that everyone uses to make it sound like a, you know, all that sort of stuff. You know, nobody really uses that in dance music, and like I guess really well, bollocks to that. No, loads of people do, but you know, but either way, you get inspired by other things that are around you, and it kind of subconsciously comes through. So I guess I have two states, and one is at the desk, and the other is on the floor. So, you know, that's kind of how that. But the two sound like they sound like one's on the floor and they sound like one's in the studio.
You've got the floor to thank for a lot out there.
Well.
That's the one. Executive producer, my floor.
yeah, cheers.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned earlier, like when you were looking back and like watching old videos, like when do you look back and like what sets like stick in your mind in terms of highlights? I guess places you've played.
I mean. Right, so I guess it's kind of fresh in my mind, but I guess, you know, like we were talking about Hidden the other day. That was an amazing couple of shows there in Manchester. Absolutely loved it there. I mean, Glasgow, I played the Battlelands actually, but on the end of a Scottish tour I did 2 years ago, which was, I think, probably one of the coolest things I think I've ever done in my whole entire life. And like that, yeah. So the Battlelands of Glasgow was fucking amazing. And I played at Glastonbury, which was like fucking ridiculous on what's it called again, on Reflection. That was mad. Just the scale of those were just like insane. And but then there's like, you know, but there's also like obviously the classic Panorama Bar, you know, things like that. There's been like I closed the Panorama Bar Garden once. My brother was there, and like it was just like next level, like in the middle of the summer, like for a proper 32-degree day, like that. I mean, just nothing on apart from a pair of socks, sliders, and a wee pair of shorts. I mean, that, and you're just laughing like that. It's just like it's so good, man. I finished on the Venga Boys. It was fucking ridiculous, right? And actually, what. Yeah. That's actually hilarious because I was playing in Pasha, another amazing show, right, with Solomun, right, like fucking like, but first back to back with Solomun and Pasha, I was like shit myself. And I when I arrived in Ibiza, they were like that. Oh, listen, it was like, hey, it's the Venga man, and it turns out that like fucking they all knew about it because Lars, the guy that does the lights in there, was one of his mates, and apparently me playing the Venga Boys had absolutely just like managed to ripple through the German music community, and everybody was going on about it. So like, hey, I guess taking risks does pay off, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And it's Solomun. I mean, you know, we've seen Solomun. Seems like just a bit of a legend out there. Is he kind of as good in person as everyone thinks? Oh,
he's so nice. He's such a lovely chap. Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah, like I mean, it was a mad gig. I played with him in Pasha, and he's such a lovely guy, and his crew is great. You know, he was just all really like really lovely, and really just up for a good time. And we had, you know, and I was so nervous. I can't tell you. I was like standing outside after having dinner at his house, and I was like literally like just holding back, throwing up like that properly. It's like
didn't enjoy the food at all. Yeah.
Okay. I've got to do this. And like just went into Pasha, and I remember because I was starting. You play the first 3 hours, and then he plays 3, and then you play 3 together. I think that was the script. And by the time we got to the back-to-back, I was like, okay, shit, this is like when it's about to go down. And like the level of concentration and the level of like pressure was just like so high, and I was like so nervous like that. But it was like and by the end of it, and we smashed it. I was just like, this is brilliant. So basically at the end of it, I just dropped to the bottom of the booth and just kind of like laid down, like kind of like on my side, and just held my head and hands like for I just went, and I just all of a sudden just felt these two arms come behind me and spoon me, and it was Solomun who got down. Solomun got down the booth and started spooning me from behind and give me a big hug. Like, just be like, as if to be like, that, well done, son, you smashed it. Oh man, it was amazing, man. Hilarious. It was absolutely ridiculous. Getting spooned by Solomun in the Pasha booth, absolutely quality.
Yeah, that's the absolute dream, mate. God, things I'd do for a spoon from Solomun, mate. You've won. In terms of obviously, like, I mean, that's like a hell of a B2B to play. But is there someone out there who you like? Do you have a list of people who you're desperate to B2B with? Like, is there someone out there who you're kind of like, oh, I'll do it?
Oh, do you know what? I mean, here's the thing with back-to-backs. I think it's more of a question of respect and kindness and like trust when it comes to those kind of things. So like I like when you get to that stage where you're with someone, because it's a big thing to go back to back with someone, because you have to really be on the same level. You can't fight one another, because that happens, and it comes across in the music. You know, like, it comes across. So like, you know, I guess like the back to back, you know, some of the best back to backs have been, you know, with Melody. Actually, that's been one of the best because we've worked on it for quite some time, and we've worked on the relationship and kind of like how we move together and how we play together. You know, it's been fantastic playing with him. And so that's always a good one. But I had a show with Patrick Topping this year, which didn't happen, which was literally going to be one of the best, coolest things like I've ever done. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you what it is, but But Patrick Topping is a great guy to go back to back with, and I can't wait to revisit that one when we get back to it. But I mean, realistically, I don't know. I'm kind of up for just doing it with anybody that fancies it. So like anybody that's kind of got like a wee bit of something to say, and like kind of is kind of up for like a, you know, building each other up, then that's always a really good aspect. There's always a really good way of putting things. So I don't really know, to be honest. I've done, you know, it's not, no one's in the crosshairs right this moment.
they'll come to you. Yeah, it's one of the things.
No.
It's one of those things. We've spoken a lot about, like, past sets. Like we've just been talking a lot about, you know, like all the sick nights out we've had, because obviously we had a year without them. There's nothing else you can do. But what are you starting to sort of plan for the year? Like, have you got anything in the calendar? Obviously, you don't want to say exactly what it is, but I mean, it's great to just be looking forward.
Well, here's the thing, man. I think, at least from what I gather from what's going on, that things are going to change quite rapidly without them like being planned as such. So, you know, I think that, but I mean, right now we have Eastern Electrics in the diary, which is very exciting, and that should be, and that's just at the end of August. So yeah, I've got a good feeling about that, and you know, like that. And then there's other things just flying about just later in the year. But to be honest, guys, it's like, you know, it might just be one of these kind of rocky returns to you know, because, you know, we're just gonna have to see how like things progress, but I think they will just end up just being like, okay, well, look, this is like the government has said this today, or whatever, or this place is open, get on a train and you're playing there tomorrow, or whatever like that. You know, it'll probably be a bit like that for a while, because, you know, any sort of excuse, I reckon, that, or like any sort of opportunity that people get to go out again, I can only hope that they're going to be like actually like on it the second it comes back, because, you know, it's just it might be the case. However, I did get to play in Egypt in December, which was probably one of the only shows. One of the only shows that was during the pandemic, which was absolutely incredible, lads. It was incredible. I mean, it was a real. I felt like I saw the future when I was there. I really felt like I saw what was going to come next, because when I went in there, it was, you know, it's scary flying just now, like scary flying across, you know, like especially that far. And when I got in, you know, it's mad, because, you know, you also kind of, you know, you kind of sometimes forget that the pandemic affects the whole world. So like that, do you know what I mean? So you kind of, it's kind of crazy to when you come over and people are experiencing similar kind of like, you know, restrictions and all that sort of stuff, you know. So anyway, one of the things is when I got ready and turned up to this club, I was playing on a boat on the Nile, right? How mental is that, right? Mental on a Nile boat, right? And for this group, the group of promoters called Pals, who are just amazing. In fact, here, look, check this out. Look, I came back from Egypt, so was that? I got their name tattooed on my arm. I know, yeah. I know exactly. I know. I was mental. So, but you know what? When I walked into that club for the first time, I kind of went, oh, I remember this, and like I remember what this kind of sounds like and feels like, but I just forgot how much I loved it. You know, like the energy that people had was not like, you know, all of people's personal problems used to come into the clubs, and they used to be very personal things, and like, you know, sometimes you'd get the atmospheres of people taking personal problems out on each other, and you know, like that. Sometimes there would be like kind of a divide between the people sometimes, but this party, for me, I think was what I I hope we see in the future, which is that everybody has been affected. So like by this. So the thing is, when everybody got into that club, everybody was on the same level. So like everybody was like that. Oh, you've all been affected by this coronavirus pandemic. So things, but like, so if it doesn't matter if you're like wearing a silly hat, or like, or if you're from the other side, or you're from the other side of the city, or like that, or you're this and that. And the next thing, it was like, we're all back and we're all dancing together. And so like it was one of the bubbliest, kindest, warmest experiences I've had, like, you know, for a long time. And I hope that will be what we see in the future, because it was such an amazing moment. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. But I've got a good feeling that things are going to start moving in the summertime, and fingers crossed for festivals, because I've been dreaming about it all day. I
feel like the atmosphere and like the electric will be like nothing anyone's ever experienced before, because people will be like, holy shit, this is actually real. You know, we're actually going bonkers. I guess the festival atmosphere as well, because it'll be over kind of a longer period of time, will really kind of resonate, and it's going to be an interesting few months ahead, hopefully. What people have said, like August, September are kind of like the earmarked times, but I guess we just got to, go when the flag's lifted, basically.
As soon as the call up comes, and get the VT threads on, we're off.
Yeah. That's the one, man. That's the one. Yeah, man. Definitely get some big fezzy outfits on the go, man, for sure. Absolutely.
I mean, you've always had some crazy outfits on when we've seen you playing. I mean, has fashion always been a big part of your image, just, as you were kind of growing up through it all?
So what? Not really, to be honest. But the thing is, everywhere that I've been, I kind of got into it over a wee while. I kind of definitely did take a while to get to like my own little style, and I guess I kind of got that over the years, because when I first got into like electronic, when I first got into like techno and stuff, I was just wearing like Nike tech pants, but like they would be like round my arse, and they'd be tucked into like big black socks that came up to my top of my calves. So it was just like that kind of section there was just like a big baggy thing. And then t-shirts that were big like tall t-shirts, because a lot of that was inspired by like when I was skiing, and I was a freestyle skier, because you used to like wear clothes that were as tall, like as long t-shirts as you possibly could, so your trousers could be literally below your knees. You know what I mean? So and then so I was definitely wearing a lot of black for a while, and as you do when you move to Berlin, and you like that, and you kind of you want to find your individuality, so you go and you wear black all the time. So like so basically after a while I found kind of the like just kind of how to style myself a bit more, and and I guess there's just like I just over time I just kind of picked up bits and bobs. Berlin's vintage like fashion kind of shops are just our class, so that's kind of where I learned how to pick up good stuff from there. And then eventually I just kind of got a bit more and more into it, and I never really got into high fashion as such. I've much preferred stuff that you can kind of that's kind of like unique in its own way. Do you know, like that? That's the thing. And big expensive things are, I'm sure they kind of, they're for, they have a time and a place. But for me, it was never really about how much it cost or whatever, kind of, or what it would kind of, or the tag. It was kind of a bit more about just kind of what I could do with it, and kind of and like all that sort of stuff, So I guess over time, I just kind of got a bit more colorful, and then I started wearing a bit of makeup and all that. And so like, all that sort of stuff kind of, just made me feel a bit more me. So that's kind of quite cool, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of what style's all about. It's just about self-expression in a way which feels natural, and it can take you can be born with it. It can take a while for it just to kind of grow or learn, and it can always be evolving as well, I guess, in that sense. So, I mean, in your sense, your style sort of reflects your personality on the stage as well, in terms of like you wear something which just you look at it and you're like, that's me, and you just sort of project it that way, which is great. And we've obviously playing a bit of a small part in that whenever you've had something.
Yeah, mate, absolutely, man. Honestly, listen, I've been wearing, I've been in VT gear pretty much since since last year. Honestly, it's like it really is. It's that you got such a great selection of stuff, and it's totally all my size, and it all fits fucking perfectly as well. You know, that little Fila body warmer thing as well. That's been turning some heads since I've been able to. Yeah. Love that.
Shout out the skiing days with that one.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, no, totally. It's cozy though as well. Super cozy.
Yeah. In terms of obviously like our podcast, which we're on, it's called Grails and Tales.
Yeah.
So in that respect, we have a few tales. What would you say is your kind of grail, in the sense like what's your best ever vintage find? What is
man?
What's a grail?
Man, do you know what, guys? I don't know. I mean, like, I have a few like that. I have a few, but I reckon that I guess like vintage stuff. I'm not really sure, but I do have a thing for Vivienne Westwood. I've got a thing for Viv. So, and I've got a few suits of Vivienne Westwood, and I've got this amazing jumpsuit which gets taken out on long weekends, and so but there's a 3-piece tartan one that I got for my my wonderful managers and friends Sarah, Carly's wedding, Sarah and Ryan's wedding, and that's probably my like special. That's my top trump. That one definitely for sure.
It's a good night when you dust that one off and throw it on.
Yeah. Listen, anything by Viv is absolutely for me. So yeah, I would definitely say that. Those are my grails.
Yeah,
we'll keep an eye
it's a pretty good one.
100%.
Well, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Looking forward to actually probably being reunited when we're outside of all of this.
Yeah. Well, this day, listen, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be great to meet you both in person, and we'll have a big dance together for sure. And yeah, when the shows come back, all you need to do is ask, and we'll see you there.
For sure, man. Well, it's been a pleasure. It's been great to hear about your tales and grails. Thanks very much.
Nice one, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, bro. Just stop. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. That was good.